Life is full of adventures.
Do you take this man to be your husband?
I do. Welcome home.
We did it.
He has your eyes.
He's perfect.
Make the most of them all with PenFed checking and savings accounts. Learn more at PenFed.org. Federally insured by NCUA. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed Credit Union.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
Life is full of adventures.
Do you take this man to be your husband?
I do. Welcome home.
We did it.
He has your eyes.
He's perfect.
Make the most of them all with PenFed checking and savings accounts. Learn more at PenFed.org. Federally insured by NCUA. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed Credit Union.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
All right, it's Kyle T. Mosley of HBCU Legends on Sports Illustrated. I'm here with Coach Daryl Steward. What's going on, Cole?
How you doing this evening, Mr. Mosley?
Oh, good, man. It's Friday, August 9th. We getting down to it, Cole. Football is back, baby. And yeah, man, look, this weekend, we're talking about scrimmages across HBCU football. I'll be attending the Texas Southern scrimmage, and I know you're going to what, the Grambling or the Southern scrimmage?
I'll try to make it both, since Southern's at night and Grambling's in the morning. So hopefully we can get in both of them. All
right, Coach doing double duty on us. But everything is good. Now, guys, don't forget, we need to have your support out there. Go and support Coach and I on Sports Illustrated site. You can go to hbculegends.net, or you can check us out on Spotify, Apple, as well as on Stitcher, as well as on all the other major podcast platforms. We like to appreciate everything that you guys have been doing. We've been growing quite steadily since we rebooted the HBCU Legends podcast. And Coach, man, it's good to see people are interested in what the two of us have to say.
Yeah, man, always blessed to have our lovely fans, Kyle. They do a great job of listening to us week in and week out, and can't be more proud of.
Yeah, definitely. Now, we talked about the scrimmages are coming up, and from a coach's standpoint, when you are evaluating your talent, because there's usually 2 scrimmages throughout the fall camp, right?
Right.
What do you look at, especially that first scrimmage?
Well, as a coach, you want to see if that particular player has that it factor. Can he make the adjustment from high school or junior college or wherever he's coming from into the Division I football program? That's what the first thing you want to look at. And then, how well can he grasp the playbook? The playbook is important. A lot of audibles for the quarterbacks, a lot of adjustments, and on defense as well. A lot of checks being made. And if you constantly make mistakes, then, as a coach, this player might not be ready. And so, it's those little tangibles that, coaches are looking for. And is he ready? Is he in game shape? Is he ready? Did he do anything over the summer? Because you can't, in that 3 to 4 weeks of time, people say, you can get in game shape, but it's just no way. And so, that as a coach, you want to make sure that your players are prepared and ready in all phases of the game. So that's what a lot of them are looking for, and hopefully they found them, Kyle.
Yeah, and looking at scrimmages as well, you got camp battles you're looking at, especially if you're one of these HBCU football coaches right now who hasn't really determined who the starting quarterback will be, or you have some battles in backfield or at cornerback, wide receiver, and things to that nature. So you want to see who's actually going to be separating themselves at this time, so to speak, right? So scrimmages are like preseason games for the NFL, especially at this time where teams are not going head to head against one another, but it's still inside of your own group that you're talking about trying to figure out who's who at this particular time. So it's very important that these young men show up and show out.
Yeah, just watching Southern last week, and they have a quarterback battle. Noah is their starting guy, but you can see it's a lot of talent behind him that's pushing them. I say all the time, when you bring 4 and 5 quarterbacks into camp, Kyle, I mean, it's something that they're not happy about with the starter. And so when you look at Noah in starting, the release is not always there. He can make every throw, but his release is definitely not quick. He needs to get it out a little bit quicker. And he has some guys that's pushing him. And so, Southern is in a quarterback battle. And so let's hope that they can choose the right one. But they definitely have the talent at the quarterback position this year.
Yeah, it's something about right now you have so many quarterback positions unsettled. And we're talking about less than 20 days away from kickoffs. And right now, we've got to be able to get some type of tone, what's happening out there. When I listened to Mark Frederick, who is the offensive coordinator from the Southern Jaguars, he talked about Noah Biden, who is the 6'4", 218-pound quarterback. He also listed Jalen Woods, who has no experience throwing the ball in college. He's talked about Tissette, who has no experience throwing the ball. He talked about Izzard, Izzard. Yeah, Izzard. I think that's the young man from Southern Lab. And you talked to me a little bit about him. Give us a little bit background on what you see from him, because he's a transfer, correct?
He's a transfer from Tuskegee. Now, he's the kid with a great release, not that big in stature, but also he's moved up in reps. Simply because, and if Coach Frederick sees what I see, he has a better release out of all the quarterbacks. Now, the thing that's probably going to hurt him is the size ability. He's not big, but he can stand in the pocket and release it. He has a quick release. So I think that's what Southern is kind of looking at, because, let's face it, Kyle, you got to be creative now. They had Coach Dooley last year, who was an offensive guru. But now it's more of making a lot of calls from the line of scrimmage. Right. And that's the technical part that comes in with high schools and transfers. Well, when you was in high school, you just had that one call. Now in college, you got 4 or 5 calls for one play. The adjustment, how well you can get the offense in the right play. And so for these newcomers, it's going to take some time.
Wow. I'm just thinking about Southern, and I know Biden has 5 starts under his belt, 4 at Grambling, 1 with Southern at the Bayou Classic, which they won the game with Terrence Graves as the interim head coach at that time. But one thing that was interesting to me from the comments that offensive coordinator Frederick said is that Coach Graves plans to leave the decision up to them, meaning his offensive staff, which encompasses none other than Fred McNair. He's going to have a say-so in what quarterback will be the starting quarterback. Do you think that's an interesting approach to defer to the offensive staff, other than you being the head coach making the final decision? Yeah,
I do, because ultimately it's going to come on Coach Graves. Now, he trusts his coaches to make the right decision. I don't believe, I think that was the right political answer for him to say. But I do think when he gets into the war room and he say, hey, coach, I like this kid, this is who we're going to go with, I think ultimately it's going to come down to Coach Graves on the last decision.
You say that's a political move. Yeah. But behind the scenes, Coach Graves said, nah, I got this, baby.
Yeah.
I got you, man. Now, interesting word coming out of Montgomery, man. And I was just kind of thrilled when I saw this. There's a camp battle between Andrew Body and Jonah O'Brien, who is the Eastern Illinois graduate transfer that has come in. Eddie Robinson Jr. said that he didn't bring Jonah in not to compete. And right now, Jerry Humphrey, who is from the Montgomery Advertiser, had a very good column, and he spoke about how he believes Body still has the edge, but the competition is still there. What's your thoughts?
And Coach Eddie Robinson is doing an outstanding job, and I think he's doing the right thing. He wants to be for sure on Body. He wants to keep him motivated, keep him hungry. And guess what, Kyle? This is the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You bring in a top quarterback from Eastern Illinois, Tony Romo's school, so they have a pipeline of great quarterbacks.
Right.
And so, he just wants to be for sure on Body. I think Body's going to get the start, but you best believe if he doesn't grasp the offense and do what he needs to do to get Alabama State in the right play to win the ball game, then they're going to switch it up. And so he's not going to make any mistake on the quarterback. He knows he has good quarterbacks in, and this is all about experience and getting into the championship. Because they scream championship in Montgomery.
Yeah, they're high on this season. And a lot of analysts and prognosticators and, pundits or whatever you want to call us, we high on Alabama State as well. Yeah. But what's funny, you say Eastern Illinois, man, that's a hotbed for, like you say, developing some good NFL talent. None other than Coach Sean Payton.
Oh, yeah.
Came out of Eastern Illinois as well, man. So that's a good place. Look, he kind of ended his 2022 season. We're talking about Jonah O'Brien over at Eastern Illinois. Some of his stats: he only played 8 games before injury. He had completed 64% of his passes. He went 853 passing yards for 9 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. That's a concern. And he ran for 62 yards, but he also had 5 rushing touchdowns. So he can be able to do it with his legs as well. And, he was a pretty good high school quarterback where he completed 93 of 175 passes for 1,400 yards, 14 touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns when he was at Bartlett High School out of Illinois. So what's your thoughts about just those stats coming out of Jonah O'Brien?
I mean, one thing I could say, it's getting close to time, and he knows, Coach Robinson knows the pressure that he's under. He's in year 4. Year 4 or 3?
3.
Okay, he's in year 3. This is the big year. This is the most when new coaches come in. This is the year that the administration is looking at, and he just wants to make all the right decisions. And in doing this is a right coaching decision to bring a high prolific quarterback in to push Andrew Body. I think it's an outstanding decision.
Yeah, I do as well. It's never a bad thing to have competition at the quarterback position. Never a bad thing, guys. Let's look at some of the top quarterbacks in the SWAC right now. You got Miles Crowley out of Grambling State. You also have, we spoke about Andrew Body out of Alabama State. But there's still an unsettled position there at Texas Southern with Jace Wilson, the newcomer of the year last season at Texas Southern. There's a young man named Cooper, who is a transfer into the system that will get some time, and he's been getting some time with the first team. Coach, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I just think, when you bring in these quarterbacks, man, because I'm shocked. You're not hearing anything from Grambling at the quarterback position. They have 5 quarterbacks. You're not hearing anything from Jackson. They have 5 quarterbacks. And what is the big deal with all these quarterbacks coming in? Yeah. And what you hear right now is playbook and accuracy. You got to be more creative in scoring. We're not in a high scoring league where you have 30 to 40 points every week in and week out. And I think that's what these coaches are doing, trying to find the right trigger man to get them to the championship, Cal.
Yeah. You spoke about Jackson State. So Jackson State last season, they had Jacobian Morgan, who was their quarterback, the big 6'4" guy out of Canton, Mississippi. Just 6 games playing, what did you feel from him? Because he did have 10 touchdowns, only 1 interception, so he took care of the ball for the Tigers. How do you feel?
I think he's a big kid, got a great arm. Was battling injuries, had to get settled into the position. But I think overall right now he got a year on his belt now. He's healthy, he's big, he's strong, he can make all the right throws. It's just being comfortable at the quarterback position. I don't think last year he was comfortable. I think he had to grow into it. This year he's more calm, cool, and collect. And he knows what he has to do to get Jackson to the championship. So, I saw him in the Alcorn game. Made some great throws. Didn't do bad. It came down to the end. I just think he's one of those quarterbacks that you have to put the weapons around. He can't do Jacoby and Morgan things if he doesn't have the weapons around. He's not going to win the game for you. He has to have the weapons around him to get Jackson in the right predicament to win the ball game. And I think if Coach Taylor puts the right weapons around him, takes some of that pressure off him with the running game, Jackson will do some great things.
Okay. And we have the champions out of Florida A&M. They look like they're leaning toward junior Murtavic, right? Who is the young man who he did play 4 games last season whenever the Rattlers were up big. That was often. And I don't know. Some people are fine with him. Some people are still on the fence with him as well. So, and when we move over to Prairie View, some people are on the fence with Cam Peters as well as that backup young man. And talking to Coach McDowell, he's still trying to figure out which one of these guys are really going to take this position and run with it.
Yeah.
Then if you move over to Alcorn State, you got Tyler Macon, right?
And I'm glad you said it. It's been real quiet at Alcorn.
Yeah, it's been real quiet.
They hadn't said anything on Tyler Macon, big transfer kid, big quarterback, big arm, but it's been very quiet. We'll have to see. Doesn't have a lot of game experience. He does have game experience, but it's just been quiet because on this level now, Kyle, you just can't be one-dimensional. All the quarterbacks can run. How well can you sit in the pocket and distribute the ball? And like a lot of the head coaches are saying, we need guys that can get us in the right play from the line of scrimmage. And I think that's why you see so many quarterbacks coming in the conference.
Man, interesting. And we already spoke about Noah Bowden and the battle that he is going into with Southern University. But here's another quarterback position that's really, we don't know what's happening down in the Delta at Mississippi Valley State. Is it Tyjarian Williams? Is he the young man who's going to take over? He's just being a freshman. And if you look at their roster, they just had 2 freshmen up there for a quarterback, man. And that's a concern, man. I don't know, Coach. Just
Yeah, I heard the kid from out the state of Alabama. It's a kid from Alabama that's going to start at Valley. They say they're high on him.
Okay.
Yeah, they're high on him. He's a big kid. Come out of a great program over there, I believe, Allenstown High School. So, say he's looking real good in camp, and so, we'll see. But they definitely have a quarterback controversy that's going on there too. So, I mean, like I said, when you talk to these coaches now, when you have a legend like Coach Dooley that's been in our conference for a long time, that everybody knows can score. He's been on several teams. He's been hired on several teams as offensive coordinator. When you hear coaches now say, hey, we got to be able to adjust from the line of scrimmage. We got to get better on offense. We got to get in better formations. Then, hey, that's a lot more work. And so what quarterback can you bring in that's used to that? And I think that's what the head coaches are going to now.
wow. Interesting stuff. And we can't forget about what's happening at Pine Bluff. Mekhi Higgins, Coach Hampton wants to rely on him, wants not to rely on him. I don't know. I mean, but I seen that kid firsthand when he was able to bring those guys back against Texas Southern. He stepped up, man, and he looks like he's the guy. But here's another one out at Alabama A&M. Unless you heard something different, you got Xavier Langford, right?
Right.
I mean, he was the guy last season. Is he the guy this season, man? We don't know there as well. And finally, Luke Sprague, but we know he is the guy over at Bethune-Cookman. He is the big quarterback, 6'5", 220 pounds, redshirt junior coming out of Pennsylvania. He has a great arm, and I think Coach Woody is going to go with him.
Yeah, I'm glad you said about the kid from Pine Bluff. I have to agree with you. I think he's probably the only quarterback that's ready to go right. If they had a game tomorrow, he'll be the one that's ready to go. But he also, he's the quarterback that Coach Hampton knows he can win the game. But,
that's true.
He can go out there. He's a big physical kid. He's a great runner, and he can make all the throws. Now, just give him a little something to work with. And I think that's what Coach Hampton did in the offseason, bringing in some big receivers, quality receivers, and some good running backs. So, hopefully, when you got a quarterback, you secured. But when you don't have one, Kyle, what's I saying?
If you ain't got a quarterback, you ain't got much, baby. You ain't got much. Yeah, I said all bad English and everything. So, yeah, you ain't got much. So we will be keeping our eyes on those guys. Some of those intriguing SWAC battles at quarterback are really what people need to kind of focus on. Last year we had like Owens out of Texas Southern. We had Jarvian Howard out of Alcorn. And we had the young man at Southern who were some of the top running backs. And I think the guy from Southern, he is coming back. And you have Eaglin from Alabama A&M. He's coming back. I know they were hit by attrition over at FAMU with Terrell Jennings, who's now in the National Football League, and the other young man. Who are other type of running backs that we should kind of focus in on in the SWAC right now?
I like the kid at Texas. Well, of course, the kid at Jackson.
Irv
Mulligan.
Yeah.
Irv Mulligan is a force to be reckoned with. He's a brutal back. He doesn't like to run away. He likes to go straight ahead. He'll try to run over you, and so he's a big physical back. And so I'm looking for great things out of him. And if TC Taylor can get that running game going, what I saw him do last year in a couple games, they didn't want to tackle him. Kind of remind me of how, So,
They made some business decisions.
Yeah, they made some business decisions. So, just looking at him, and I like the kid at Texas Southern as well.
Okay. Now, Kendrick Rhymes, that's the young man out of Southern University that people like, and they had high hopes for him last season, and he did have a couple of pretty good games, as well as that Bayou Classic. He did pretty well in. Kelvin Dean, that's the young man out of Florida A&M that I think really is going to show his wares this year. There's a couple of young guys to keep your eye on out of Alabama State, Marcus Harris, and out of Alcorn, Jacorian Sewell. So keep your eyes out there. Now, talk about wide receivers before we go into break, Coach. Anybody that you feel we should really pinpoint for this season as one of these all SWAC type of guys?
Definitely Quay Davis. Definitely.
Really? Wow.
Definitely big play receiver. Big in stature, 6'3", 200, probably 205, 210 pounds. And Rico Powers. I think Rico Powers is a slash type of receiver. He can go inside, he can go outside. I just think Jackson need to give him the ball more, see what he can do and capitalize on it. But definitely those two, those two have the next level tangibles. And so they just need to work at getting them the ball and getting them in the right play to be productive on the field.
Yeah. A part of the Phil Steele all SWAC team, he had 3 guys on his first team out of SWAC. Jacoby Hewitt out of Alabama A&M. You have Fabian McCray out of Jackson State. Javon Robinson out of Grambling. And going to the second team, you have Keenan Hembrecht out of A&M at Alabama, and you have Shamor Savage out of Prairie View A&M, and you have Trenton Leary out of Texas Southern. And on the third team, you had Jamari Gossett out of Florida A&M, Trajan Spiller from Prairie View, and Chandler Whitfield from Southern. A lot of people believe Chandler Whitfield should have been a lot higher in that ranking, but we'll see, man. I mean, you can say preseason this and preseason that. These guys still have to perform.
Right. And the Griffin Kidd at Alcorn, I think he's a big play receiver. Sometimes they use him at tight end. Sometimes they use him at receiver. He's kind of one of those tweeners, but he's fast, he's big, he's physical. And I just think, Kyle, being creative and getting these guys the ball. Kind of like that Debo Samuels with the 49ers. Being, these coaches now have to learn how to be creative and get the playmakers the ball. And I think when they do that, you will see the breakout in these kids.
Interesting stuff, man. And I keep forgetting, man. I know there is a camp battle over at FAMU. And I have to apologize, listeners. I know we talked about the young man who, let's see here, what was his name? Well, anyway, we spoke about the young man, Junior Martovic, right? There is a camp battle. Remember, there was a transfer. Daniel Richardson. Remember, he came in from Florida Atlantic at one time. And now he's at FAMU. So he's a big boy, and he is challenging for that position as well. So Florida A&M, everybody, again, we're just talking all these names of these quarterbacks thrown around. What is going on, and will the coaches be able to give us a kind of a read or what's going to happen with their team under center after scrimmage number 1 this weekend? So,
you know what's interesting about that, Kyle, when you talk about all these transfer quarterbacks as well, when you look at Tyler Macon coming in from Missouri, big transfer,
right?
Coach McNair had him last year, and he also had the transfer from Louisiana Tech, and he went with Allen. I think is it a question mark there? Because, like I said, you hadn't heard anything out of the Alcorn Braves at the quarterback position. Are they high on Tyler Macon? We do know he's a great runner, but can he distribute the ball? That's what you're going to have to be able to do on this level. And I think that's what Southern and the rest of the guys are doing, making sure they get a signal call that can do all things, not just one. They want you to be able to throw it, run it, and get them in the right play to be successful.
Right. All right. On the other side of the half-hour mark, we will go ahead and talk a little bit about the defensive stars to watch out for on Phil Steele's team. I'm Kyle T. Mosley. That's Coach Daryl Steward. We'll be back. All right, Coach. We are back in the midst of talking about what's happening with the SWAC.
Life is full of adventures.
Do you take this man to be your husband?
I do. Welcome home.
We did it. He has your eyes.
He's perfect.
Make the most of them all with PenFed checking and savings accounts. Learn more at PenFed.org. Federally insured by NCUA. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed Credit Union.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
Be warned that once you pick up a refreshingly cold drink from McDonald's and people see just how refreshingly cold that drink from McDonald's is, you may create drink envy. Because there are drinks, then there are drinks from McDonald's.
For a morning brew that really creates a stir, get any size iced coffee, including caramel and French vanilla, for just 99 cents before 11 a.m. Price and participation may vary, cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
PenFed Free Checking offers zero fees and zero balance requirements for zero hassle. PenFed Access America Checking lets you earn money on your balance for dreams big and small. Choose the best account for you and start making the most of your money. Learn more at PenFed.org. Federally insured by NCUA. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed Credit Union.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
Stars, the first team defense out of Phil Steele's team, man, he's been on most of everybody's radar. These two guys, Rico Dozier as well as Kelby Givens out of Southern. Rico Dozier out of Alabama State, as well as the young man Jacob Williams out of Texas Southern. Those are three names, prominent names that we see on that defensive line. Talk about those guys as well as anyone else.
Yeah, the kid at Southern University, man, he's a force to be reckoned with. He big in stature. You're gonna need two people to block him. He has a great get off. Can use his hands. That's a great defensive lineman. And this kid Malachi Bailey though doesn't get a lot. I think he's gonna play with a chip on his shoulder this year. I really do, because he's kind of like that body. He doesn't get a lot of press, doesn't get a lot of talking, doesn't get the respect that he deserves. And so I think those two kids are going to stand out, and of course Dozier as well at Alabama State, the linebacker that transferred from Pine Bluff. I think those three kids are going to separate themselves from everybody else.
Yeah. Now, defensive backs, of course, one name has been a constant ever since the championship year last year at Florida A&M. The Rattlers, Kendall Bowler. We know about him. We know what he could be able to do. In the second team, they have a guy named, that kid Edwin Summerber out of Alcorn. Got to watch out for him. But also Jackson State, Mr. Guthrie. That's a name that people got to watch out for as well. I was surprised he was just on the second team for Phil Steele. There's a young man named Burgess out of Alabama State and Pate out of Alabama A&M. Don't know much about those guys, but we do know what some of these other young men are capable of doing. But Also, keep your eye on Javius Williams out of Texas Southern, as well as Robert McDaniel from Jackson State. Any other DBs that we're overlooking?
No, just Kendall Bowler, man. He had an outstanding junior year last year. When the scouts was looking at him, not big in size, but plays with a big heart. And if he could have a outstanding senior year, he could be a for sure draft pick.
Yeah. What about the kid from Southern, Derek Williams, the linebacker?
I think he is a good linebacker. I think he needs to do more. I think it's all about getting him in the right position, getting him in the right call to make plays. Southern did an outstanding job. I think they were second in defense last year.
Yeah, they were.
And, he's the strength of their defense. Now, I just think he needs to be more visible and making more plays to get out there. So I think once they teach him how to do that, and then he definitely will get a look.
Okay, cool. And one of the guys, when we talk about the specialists, the kick returner, Robert McMim from Alabama State, has been getting a lot of national press in these preseason teams and polls as well. And the kicker, the punter, I should say, from Jackson State, Matt Knoll, he's been getting some good press. But, Coach, last year, Jackson State, and they had the young lady who came in to help them out with the place kicking. Any word if she's going to return in that capacity?
Hadn't heard too much on her,
Interesting.
I hadn't heard she reported back to camp. I don't know if it got too physical for her or what, but hadn't heard anything on her returning to camp.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked that Phil still had the kid from Southern, Griffin. He was on the third team. Remember, he had two long kicks for that were really like 50-yarders and a couple to win games for Southern last season. He was just ranked third, man. I thought he would have been a lot higher.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people now are high on the kid from Jackson, the punter. I think he's averaging around 45 to 50 yards. So,
wow.
Let's see if these guys can come in and they do draft kickers.
All right, yeah, they sure do. Now, coming out of the MEAC, guys, Otto Coons out of Norfolk State. Phil still had him at number one over Walker Harris from North Carolina Central, as well as over Taj Smith from Morgan State. What's your thoughts there? Is Coach Odom's, does he have something in this young man?
Yeah, he definitely does. This kid can make, he reminds you of Davis Richardson, Kyle. This kid can make all the throws. He's just, if Coach Odoms can get the pieces around him, then you'll see Coach Odoms back at the top again. I think that's what injuries hurt him last year, the running game, and so he had to kind of carry the team. But you can have that big arm, but you got to have somebody to get the ball to. And so I think if Coach Odoms put the right pieces around him, I think they'll make some noise in the MEAC this year.
Yeah. Another player making noise in the backfield is Jarrett Hunter from Howard, as well as Eaton James from Howard. Those guys have different styles. One is a little off pace. The other one is more of a bruiser, traditional running back. Eaton is more like, how would I say, he's between Darren Sproles and Alvin Kamara type of guy, but those two guys look like they're pretty good. And Jamari Taylor from North Carolina Central, he's another one to look at, as well as South Carolina State has Kazarius Adams. I thought Mookie Collier, did he graduate or is he coming back?
I think he graduated, but definitely the kid from Central, the running back.
Yeah, No more Mookie. Man, Mookie, man, he put that stiff on those boys at Jackson State. That is like something that will never go away. That's in infamy right now. Now, let's talk about the defensive guys from the MEAC. Eric Hunter, the young linebacker out of Morgan State, has been getting a lot of press, man, and rightfully so. He has that look about him, man, and you like defensive guys, I heard. Talk about his game.
I mean, Eric Hunter is a big physical linebacker, and the NFL, they like big physical kids. He's done some great things at Morgan on the defense side of the ball, and he's definitely a run stopper. Anytime you can stop the run with a big linebacker, you definitely are forced to be reckoned with. And he's that guy. He will plug a hole, and that's what you want to see out of a linebacker. And so that's what scares a lot of coaches when they turn his tape on, Kyle. He's a plugger. You rarely find those guys. You'll find those guys that can make a tackle, but you're looking for a plugger, a guy that can fill that hole and hit it at the point of attack. He's that guy.
Wow. All right. So Mr. Hunter, it looks like he's going to have a great season ahead of him. And other notable names on defense, of course, you got Kenny Gallup Jr., the defensive back who also is on. He's repeated on the Aeneas Williams watch list, and he was the Aeneas Williams recipient for that award last season. He may be able to repeat this season as well, man. So these guys look real good out of the MEAC. There's some talent that we're not completely aware of, but we'll go into more talking about those guys probably next podcast before the season starts, because we want to give you guys a good preview of everybody in all of the conferences, not just in some. But there's one kid that caught my attention. His name is Karan Prunty from North Carolina A&T. And, Coach, he looks like the prototypical defensive back that a lot of NFL teams like to see, long, lengthy, as well as speedy. Talk about him.
Well, definitely, anytime you can get face these big NFL wide receivers now, they average 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" receivers now in the league. Anytime you're 6'1", 6 foot, 6'2" corner, you're definitely going to get a look from the NFL pro scouts. And this kid is that, and so he just needs to break out his interceptions and let's see how well he can close on the ball. And so I think once he have more breakups and a couple more interceptions, I think this kid going to be a force to reckon with.
All right, cool. Let's kind of stay in the MEAC, so to speak. You had listened to what Coach Trei Oliver was talking about, and you wanted to kind of enlighten the listeners a little bit. Talk about that.
Yeah, of course, right now with inflation and what's going on right now in America, Coach Trei Oliver made a great point with the Superconference. And I thought it was outstanding of the SWAC looking at his Superconference. I think it would be an outstanding move. He talked about Central and probably, I think it was South Carolina State moving into the Superconference as well. And so I think,
would that be like a merger with the SWAC or just creating a whole new conference altogether?
Well, basically they talked about bringing a whole new conference. The schools that can do it and the schools that can't do it. I believe Pine Bluff was on there that couldn't do it, Valley, a lot of more schools that couldn't do it, but then you had your bigger schools like Tennessee State, Morehouse, South Carolina State, Jackson, just a big super conference with all your top schools. That's roughly they had over 5,000 enrollment that had financial problems. So, it made sense, Kyle, when you listen to them right now. I think these coaches have a great point in the super conference. I think they're tired of every year with the financial problems. let's face it, some schools just don't have financial problems. Some do. And I think you're hurting the ones that do when you keep them in the same old phase. I think we need to move towards the future. When you look at what the Big Ten is doing, when you look at what the SEC is doing, I think right now that a super conference will be an outstanding. Now, if of course, it's up to Dr. Charles McCullough, but a super conference, I just think right now with so many of our schools, you look at the big move Howard just received their money. You know, they're a school that can be in the super conference. I mean, Jackson, Southern, Graham. You got some schools that are well deserving of a super conference. Now, whether the commissioners decide on and say, well, we just want to keep it like that, and we just keep on, going through the same old. But remember what we talked about last week, change. I think it's time to evolve. I mean, doing it the same old way. We see from Coach Prime experience in our league that, hey, we can make the 30 and 40 million too. So, I mean, why not do it? Bring in Tennessee State, Morehouse, bring in all our super colleges so we can turn this league into a super conference.
The super conference. Dr. Charles McClellan already went on record 2 years ago at the SWAC conference for Media Day. He said, we are already a super conference. Look, man, Commish said, we already a super conference. What y'all talking about? Well, I tell you what, man. The super conference has a lot of testing out to do. And right now, it's either it's going to be a super conference, like you say, to be able to merge and be able to compete for, and guys, it's all about the dollars.
Right.
And right now, if you could be able to have a conference with some super talented brands out there that's always going to be promotable and can compete at a higher level, that's another thing that we got to consider, though, Coach. Can these teams compete against? Let's first start out with some of these FCS teams that have been powerhouses, Then if we can't compete against them, well, what are we talking about? So that's my concern, is that do we have what it takes to be able to get the talent in? And I think that's what Coach Blakeney from Howard University was trying to do when he was speaking with private equity people, is be able to bring the money in so they can be able to pay for the name, image, and likeness that a lot of recruits are asking for, right? And you can only get the best recruits nowadays if you have that type of money at your disposal.
Right.
So,
yeah, and you make a great point, Kyle. When you have NIL into place now, it's very important. But can you imagine a Tennessee State, Morehouse, and Central, North Carolina Central, along with A&T, who knows? But can you imagine that super conference week in and week out? You talk about those grace games, Kyle. When you have a super conference, you don't play grace games anymore. You don't have well, that's who I'm playing this week. I'm not going to call no teams out. But you, week in and week out, you either going to have a sellout crowd or a big game. And that's what Coach was saying. And he made all the sense in the world. Why can't you have that impactful game every week? And that's what the Super Conference does for you. It makes you have that $5 to $10 million game week in and week out. And that's what you want.
Man, great point. But I'm going to tell you like it is. If it doesn't make money, it ain't going to bring in the honey. So right now we got to be able to understand, you've got to make it make sense, lay it all out, and put it down on the table. All right, guys, we got 13 minutes left to the program. Coach, let's talk about what's happening right now. We got some classics that we're going to look forward to. We got the Orange Blossom Classic. We got Morehouse and Howard. They're going to play the New York HBCU Classic up there in New York at MetLife Stadium. Which Classic are you looking out for in week 1?
Definitely the North Carolina Orange Blossom Classic, North Carolina Central, and Alabama State. I think all eyes going to be on that game because people want to see what both quarterbacks are going to do, and also both head coaches as well. Two great leaders in our conference going to go head to head. I think it's going to be a great matchup. It's going to be a tricky game, Kyle. I don't think. When you talk about Central, it's a new quarterback. And, Coach Robinson is a great defensive mind, and he does an outstanding job of getting his defense in the right position to make plays. And so, it's going to be a tricky game. I have Central winning 23-20, but I think it can go down to the wild card.
Yeah. Tiffany Green talked about this with me in an interview that I had. Who's going to emerge out of that SWAC East, as well as who's going to emerge out of the SWAC West? And I'm holding back my judgment until we get some of these quarterback situations cleared up, man. Because right now it doesn't make sense to be able to say this team is a favorite over this team, because we don't know who's throwing the rock, who's going to manage the game for these teams, man. And so that's where I'm coming from with it. Who's going to be the ones managing these games makes more sense to me to be able to say, I'm putting my dollars behind this team right now, So we'll kind of pay attention to all of that coming up as well. But I tell you one thing that's really going to be, I would say, a concern for a lot of the teams going forward is how they're going to market their programs, bringing people in to help them market their programs to get the dollars. Because I don't think the SWAC nor the MEAC can survive another season if they put mediocre products out, and I hope this season is not that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. By looking at some of the teams, it's definitely great talent out there. Now, putting it together is another thing, Kyle. And I think that's a great point with what you're saying, making sure that you have the right talent, because, we have those type of fans that when they start booing, your next game could be an empty game. So
you say start booing. That happened at Southern last year.
your next game could be 200 people in the stand, guy.
Coach Julie, I know you took us to the SWAC championship, but we have a change of heart. That was the most amazing thing I ever seen, man. A guy take you to the SWAC championship. Been to 2 straight SWAC championships. Anyway, all right, we're moving on. All right, today, congratulations to Doug Williams, the pioneer himself. He turned 69 years young today. I had a chance to give him a call, wish him happy birthday. He said, Kyle, I'm out here working in New Jersey. The Commanders are playing the Jets for their preseason game on tomorrow. And he also had time to kind of reflect. If you guys hadn't read this book, I'm going to promote this book right now to you. Lewis Moore, he sent me an advanced copy of it, and I've been doing a good job reading through it. It's about Doug Williams as well as Vince Evans, the making of the black quarterback. The title is The Great Black Hope, and you can find that on our website at HBCUlegends.net. The Great Black Hope, and what that was, Coach, it was historic. Back in 1979, Doug said they really weren't thinking about it. They were just going out to try to play the game. But the significance was that was the first time 2 black starting quarterbacks met against one another in Chicago on Soldier Field, and Doug came out the victor over Evans. But just think about the history. That was 45 years ago. where we are today.
Yeah, definitely shout out to the great Dougie Fresh Williams. But hey, man, the job that Doug has done being a pioneer for not just the NFL and black quarterbacks, for HBCU football as well.
Right.
You know, he's done an outstanding job with representing the league and bringing out the history. And these young men right now, Kyle, that's what I mean. When you watch these football camps and see what these quarterbacks are doing right now, it's because of guys like Doug. You know, the quarterback position right now is unbelievable, man. It's evolved. You know, it's no more $50 million contracts or even $100 million. I mean, it's all the way up to 200, 300, 400 million now. So the quarterback position is definitely a special position, and we wouldn't be talking about it if it weren't for the great Doug Williams.
Yeah. Moore said this in his book. When Doug Williams and Vince Evans marched onto Soldier Field on September 29th, 1979, they represented so much more than themselves. There were two black men who to start, but not much of a fuss is raised about that, one other reporter said. The game measures as one of the most monumental contests in NFL history. It was a promissory note from professional football that one day things would change in the game and in society. And it has, with the likes of Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, the young man out in Washington now, Jaden Daniels, who's taken over, you know, and we can go on and on. Russell Wilson and a lot of starting quarterbacks, and CJ Stroud. They are making an imprint and impact in the National Football League to have young men like Andrew Body and whomever else coming up to aspire to be there.
Yeah.
So,
and speaking of great quarterbacks, Kyle, you know, we can't leave the legend out. The guy who I admired growing up, a guy who changed the game. I said I didn't see sellout crowds, so I saw this man throw that football and high in the sky. But Steve Air McNair, the brother, Fred Air McNair, the first Air McNair, not one, Kyle, not two, not three, but 4 SWAC titles as a head coach.
Wow. Yeah.
And, you know, we had a long conversation last week, and, you know, he recruited my area when I was head coaching in high school. And I told him my dreams of being a HBCU head coach. And we go way back. I remember doing Steve Camp when he had Vince Young.
Oh,
and so,
wow.
Yeah. He embraced me, man, and he gave me a golden opportunity, Kyle. And he's going to endorse me. And so to have a guy like Fred Air McNair to endorse you being a head coach in the HBCU it does wonders for my career and for the community, because he's one that can do it. You know, when you win 4 SWAC titles as a head coach, you know, it's just like what Coach Graves is doing, bringing him in, because he means so much to the conference. And to be endorsed by him, I just want to say thank you, Coach. And we'll be cheering you on this year.
All right. He just won't do our program. I'm not going to talk about Coach like that, but
we go. Hey, you know, he got the big Netflix deal, and Coach doing a lot, man. But I was just so proud of him, man. And, you know, I sometimes like, Coach, do you remember me? And he remembered me, man. You know, a lot of guys know me from Eddie Robb, but just being endorsed by a great coach like that, man, it just does wonder. And Kyle, I'm gonna try to get him on. If I gotta pay the press fee myself, we can get him on the show, man. And
Coach, look, I was your biggest advocate trying to get you over here at Texas Southern, man. So yeah. Come on board, man. So that is fantastic, Coach, to be able to have Fred McNair to be behind you. All right, guys, we got to talk about a couple of quick items before we head on out. Joshua Pryor, as well as Mark Evans II. Now, Mark Evans was cut by the Saints guess what? Saints brought him back this week, and he signed a contract to be with them. I think it's 1.2 mil, man. Sure. So, hey, that's awesome. And Joshua Pryor, he is now up at the Cincinnati Bengals camp. The edge rusher who was the MEAC Defensive Player of the Year a couple of seasons ago. It's a CIAA a couple of years ago with Bowie State. So congratulations to those young men, and congratulations to Sha'Carri Richardson. Oh man, did you see how she came back on that anchor leg when the 4x100 team was down to be able to hit goal? She just blew by everybody. So amazing race, amazing time for all the gold medal winners, not just gold medal, but everybody who for years and years and years prepared to be able to be at the Olympics, man. This is just tremendous what these athletes have been able to do, Coach.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Sha'Carri Richardson is an amazing athlete. What she did at LSU and now at the Olympics, she's a brand within a brand. And so very proud of her accomplishment and what she's doing at the Olympics right now, representing the United States of America.
Yeah, and the basketball finals are going to take place tomorrow, where you're going to have both of the finals are going to have the U.S. against France in the women's as well as in the men's. So that's going to be very interesting to see, with LeBron on the men's side and Steph, the Chef Curry, they call him. And then you got Aja Wilson on her side with Steward, Breanna Stewart, and those ladies as well. So, Coach, how can everybody find you on the World Wide Web, man?
Tycoon League 2 at gmail.com. And also, within the next week or two, Kyle, I have another site up that they can subscribe to. We'll get it out to our fans. It's going to show you scouting reports, what's going on in the league, and who's the next great NFL football player.
All right.
So you catch all that.
All right, cool. I'm Kyle T. Mosley of HBCU Legends. You can go to hbculegends.net to go directly to our Sports Illustrated site. You can check me out at KTMOZE on Sports Illustrated on all the social media platforms, as well as HBCU Legends. Kyle T. Mosley, that's Daryl Steward. We are out. Thank you.
PenFed Free Checking offers 0 fees and 0 balance requirements for 0 hassle. PenFed Access America Checking lets you earn money on your balance for dreams big and small. Choose the best account for you and start making the most of your money. Learn more at penfed.org. Federally insured by NCUA. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed Credit Union.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
PenFed Free Checking offers 0 fees and 0 balance requirements for 0 hassle. PenFed Access America Checking lets you earn money on your balance for dreams big and small. Choose the best account for you and start making the most of your money. Learn more at penfed.org. Federally insured by NCUA. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed Credit Union.